And on the bottom right, there we go. In the red, he's playing Red Basilisk. He won Masters Coliseum. He's won pretty much everything that there is possible to win. He's the red Zerg. It's Serral.
And his opponent spawning up at the top left. It is Kelazhur, a part of a new team called, I believe, R8. Is that correct? I believe so.
Yeah, they're great.
R8 Esports.
They're great.
Yeah.
I'd rate them 8 out of 8.
Nice one, mate.
Yeah, it's pretty great. You know what? I already used that word. We'll come up with
You did,
more.
yeah. You've made me irate. Yeah.
See, this is just why you're a better caster than I am, Steadfast. You've gotten more R8 words in your vocabulary.
Well, thank you for the nominate. I appreciate it. That's enough of that. We've got ourselves actually an interesting build here coming out of Serral. He has gone gas pool, and against a player like Kelazhur, that makes a lot of sense for a couple of reasons, specifically on Oceanborn. One, Kelazhur loves Reapers. The potential of a 2-Rax Reaper play was very high, even though that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a kind of an offshoot of that with the 1-Rax low ground. But also, Kelazhur loves to send an SCV to the low ground at the third base, which is a good play on Oceanborn because you really only want to be taking that pocket third. You don't want to take a forward third as the Zerg. That can open you up to potential 2-base tank pushes, all that jazz, blah, blah, blah. So the concept of building an early pool allows you to secure that base more easily. Now we are going to be seeing, the Overlord. Oh, wait, no, he's not going for the jump. Okay. Serral's going to escape maybe, or is Kelazhur going for a big bait?
A great bait, mate. Anyway, enough of that. Serral's doing a really good job of avoiding this. It should eventually die, but
the Marines are getting dragged around a lot with only one Marine hitting it.
Yeah, and
Where are the
Lings are gonna find
Lings are
these.
coming forward. That's going to be one dead Marine. If he can get down to the bottom side, Serral might save this Overlord. Oh, this is... Okay, no, the Overlord will die. But this is going to be a reactor taking a lot of damage. Well, it's on the outside. It cannot be repaired. There's no other units here. I think that, yeah, this is really awkward. That reactor was basically done when it had to be canceled. The Overlord going down is uncomfortable for Serral, but losing one of these Marines and potentially losing the reactor twice. Oh my God, this is a disaster for Kelazhur, to be honest.
And he is just being so efficient with this as well. Pulling back individual, like, you expect a Ling to die there, right? Like,
you sure do.
It's 4 Lings. He's like, no. 25 minerals is very important to my game plan. I'm going to make sure that I keep, like, the maximum possible value. So it's 2 reactor cancels, 2 dead Marines, all for a single Overlord. Steadfast, it's weird to say, but I don't, like... it's not weird to say. I don't think anyone else gets that much. I mean, that is, I don't know if it was a bait. I don't know if it was planned. I don't know if it's just a reaction to Kelazhur maybe being a little out of position, but Serral is able to just extract so much value out of such little on the map. And is this game ending? No, absolutely not. No way. But is this a nice opening? Does this kind of showcase what we're talking about when we say that Serral is on championship form, is looking really good? Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, and finally one of those Lings goes down to the Cyclone lock-on. This is... The thing is, the game state is not even that bad for Kelazhur, but it just feels bad when your opponent does that to you. You just feel like... you've been taken for a ride. Now, we are going to see the second Overlord getting picked off here. Good job with the Cyclones. Serral, though, he was anticipating that already. Does build a couple extra Overlords. He was already not going to be supply blocked by this. Also, a very cute move. He puts a Ling in these shrubberies. This acts as... Well, it acts as a mobile... Oh my God, he even saves that Ling. Jeez.
It's 1 Ling. Like, Serral, you can let it die. It's 1 Ling. It's okay. I mean, this feels like... You say that stuff early on is something where it is a... It just feels bad. It kind of feels like you're playing Marco Polo, right? And Serral's just like poking you from all the angles, and you can just never slap him, and you can never make him become Marco. it turns the game into a very reactive game rather than a proactive game. You feel oppressed on the map. You feel like whatever is happening, you're playing your opponent's game at that point. You're not playing the game that you want to play. And Serral, interestingly enough, we've cast, four TVZ maps today? Something like that, 3 TVZ maps. We haven't seen any roaches. We saw Ragnarok do that roach opener, but that's not really much of a thing. Serral looks to be opening more of kind of a roach composition. He's been doing a lot of this where you use the roaches and infestors, just get into late game as quickly as possible. This is actually how he won Masters Coliseum 7 and played some pretty cool games. But what do you think here? As we look at this, we can talk all we want about Serral's macro roach openers. We see 1-1 on the way. Oceanborn is a decent map to go and try to go for a roach pressure. Not the best one, certainly not. There's kind of that awkward high ground. Does Serral get aggressive with this, though? Or is this just, again, as I say that, infestation bits down, answering my question for me. But I was going to ask, is this just to get in the late game very quickly? Is there some pressure attached?
He might feign pressure, but he was already droning super hard with this. Didn't even stop at like 72 drones. Usually when we see this 1-1 roach timing, it's 66 drones. Sometimes we'll see a 4th base and double gas and it go up to like 72 drones just for a ton more Ravagers. But in this case, no, he's gone shot up straight almost to 80 drones here. This is just defensive as he gets in towards his hive and infestors as both of those things start up. Serral has never really played the 1-1 roach style the way that players like Rogue, like Dark, really loved to do so. Players like Wayne, but this is. I do want to point out, Kelazhur had a really good setup. He got away with going 3cc super delayed starport, and that's why, even though it was an uncomfortable start for Kelazhur, he's actually in a pretty damn solid position in terms of macro setup. Like his upgrades are very quick. His 2-2 is actually going to be extremely fast. Very unfortunate he did the Beyond and forgot to build the +2 attack right away, because if he did hit that, he'd be hitting like 845 timing with 2-2. As it is, it's still going to be a pretty strong timing, but missing out on that +2 weapons is going to be unfortunate.
Yeah, and the thing we also have to remember, you talk about hitting these timings, it's not as good. Certainly hitting a big, powerful 2-2 timing would be fantastic, but this entire build that Serral is playing for is predicated on this idea of fungal. He's not going to go for it. Okay, it's just a little bit too far away.
That scan was very important. Without that scan, he does get caught.
But like this entire thing that Serral's going for is predicated on A, getting to late game ASAP, but B, any sort of Terran aggression just kind of gets shut down. One good fungal knocks down 2 medevacs maybe, and it's like, okay, well, this is not all that great. And then you move on. So Kelazhur could have hit that timing. Absolutely, he's going to try to trade out as well as he can. He's got to knock down a lot of these roaches, actually. Getting on top of on the Hydras on the right side as well. Not going to be able to get the Lurker, but even still, cost-effective, well, maybe a cost-effective trade. If you can chain the fungals together, it's no longer a cost-effective trade. Steadfast. That's 3 medevacs down, and the entire army in the middle part of it. And at the end of the day, it was roaches falling, not Hydras, not Lurkers, nothing like that. And this is part of the problem of getting aggressive against this way that Serral wants to play. Again, like 1 or 2 good fungals, and your entire force gets knocked down, and then you're kind of forced to play a little bit later. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you play the way Serral's playing, you put it in the hands of a player like Serral, and it becomes very hard as we have building armor on the way.
Yeah, that's a bit of an oopsie.
That's not what you want to do.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of a misclick right there. Fungal growth is available here. Serral holding it for now, will drop the fungal, and he is going to be able to grab a couple of these bio units. Kelazhur will get away with the rest. Kelazhur was really hesitant to lift. I really thought he was going to go for that quick lift up, but he kind of felt like he almost wanted to bait the fungals. Meanwhile, Lurkers on the bottom side are going to deflect this drop. Serral is really staying on top of this, not letting Kelazhur find really any openings. And this, hang on, how many siege tanks we have? We got 4 siege tanks. So yeah, this push shouldn't be able to get too much done. It might find a couple of tanks clumped up, but Serral, nah, he doesn't know how much is back there. He decides not to engage in, and that's the right call.
And at this point, what he's looking to do is he's got all these roaches. They're not nearly as effective as they were, 4 minutes ago. So your job with the roaches at this point is to keep them alive as long as possible, sure, but to trade them out efficiently. That's what Serral's looking for. That's why he's getting aggressive. That's not efficient, though, as I think a couple infestors went down as well. I only see one on the left side, so Serral pressuring, doing a great job. But Kelazhur's able to ambush, get right on top of him, tries to get on top of these tanks as well, but lurkers are not in range. Or they're on hold position. I'm not really sure. Regardless, the tank will continue to shell away at them. Serral cannot get on top of those tanks, cannot start to make that happen. Meanwhile, lurkers on the left side, they're going to shred this game. I mean, Kelazhur jumps on part of the army and does a really nice job of doing so. But at the end of the day, Serral just trades better. Kelazhur able to make one thing happen, but he loses on two other sides, and that's just not quite enough here, especially if Serral's going to come in from every side. Now the lurkers are going to get on top of the tanks. The fungal's on the right side as well, and Serral is just evaporating Kelazhur. We're 11 minutes in, and I don't think this goes past 12:30 maybe. Serral has just
I don't think it goes past 12.
Things.
I think we're going to see GG any second now, in fact, as Serral has just kind of run all over Kelazhur. Kelazhur has made some good moves in this game, but Serral, you mentioned it, he is in championship-looking form. Kelazhur is going to stick around in this game for a little bit longer, and it looks like my 12-minute estimation will be very off. But, yeah, I don't really see what he can do. He's contained back on 3 bases. Serral's getting into +3 carapace, +1 melee. He does have a decent-sized army, but Serral is maxed out and is starting to build a bank. And those Vipers, they are a big problem for Kelazhur to deal with. Double Abduct, going to grab those 2 frontline tanks, and this just looks really hopeless for the Brazilian Terran.
I mean, if you run up the gullet like this can be a problem, as the Vipers are not really there. Serral maybe forces it a little bit too hard. I've also apparently, I tried to be conservative. I'm like, you know, it's Katowice, you maybe sing around a little longer. Okay, I'll give him a minute. I'm also going to be wrong on that, as Kelazhur is very interested in taking this game much longer, and Oceanborn is a map that it is very hard to go and break a Terran player. So Kelazhur's got the ramp, or Serral's going to struggle to go up the ramp. It's also kind of hard for Kelazhur to go down the ramp, but this game will continue. Serral's not going to break him right now. Of course, there's more on the way, right? Neural's just about done. +2 melee done, or just about done, or just getting started. There we go. +3 armor. Like, Serral's developing into this game more and more. He doesn't have to win the game right now. It would be
not
nice,
at all.
right? He's got this, and he's going to run. That's a lot of SimCity, though. That's really hard for Serral to break.
Yeah, but Blinding Clouds on a couple of... well, no, it's going to be Abducts instead. And he gets one of the command centers not being built, and one that was already finished. I mean, Kelazhur, like, I don't blame him for not GGing, but Serral's on, what, 6 or 7 bases? You can't even secure your 4th, and he's trading... He's only 700 resources lost down. Oh, we are going to see a fungal growth on those ghosts. They tried to get some snipes. They do have a good concave here, and they will clean up these lurkers. So that's actually a nice little find for Kelazhur, but Serral, once again, he is just in a dominant position. He is going to move in, snipe a couple more tanks. Kelazhur, it really doesn't feel like he can hold on that much longer. Even though he is doing a good job of not dying, once again, not being able to secure the 4th base it's kind of a death sentence.
I mean, Kelazhur is starting to trade really nicely. Granted, he needs to lift this. Okay, he's got ghosts. Never mind. I mean, steadfast. And importantly, yeah, we look at the trades, and I mean, Serral was down. Fungal. That's a... No, never mind. I'm looking for some copium. That fungal is going to get so many of these ghosts. And now you're going to try to pick him up, run him away. Kelazhur does a great job of that, but that means that Serral's going to get on top of the tank line. Failings run forward. Ghosts, they're cloaked. They're able to run away. But I was about to say, well, you know what? The trades have been pretty good for Kelazhur. He's starting to really develop this ghost count. He's got liberators out. We saw how good we continue to see how good Ghost Liberator is in the late game. Yeah, maybe. But then you lose so many ghosts like that. What was that? Oh, it was actually only 3 ghosts. So maybe
it was more the tanks. It's more the tanks that he lost. That's the defensive backbone. He's actually playing very efficiently in the last little bit, like you said, but losing those tanks, it's going to make it so hard to hold on. I think the reason that Kelazhur has been able to hold on for as long as he has is that Serral's upgrades, because he's been going for all 3 attack upgrades. Up until just recently, he was down a lot of upgrades. Kelazhur was on that 3-3 versus, like, what, 1-2-2 or 1-2-3? Or even...
1-1-2 or something?
No, yeah. It was 1-2-3, I think. So the melee upgrades were lagging, but now it's a little bit better. Serral maxing out once again, a ton of Lingbane Hydra. If Kelazhur can make a hold here, a legitimate hold, there is a shot for him to come back in this game, but that is going to be a tall order. And okay, fortunately the Ghosts do get back into position, so they would be able to EMP. Serral does have a bunch of lurkers on the right side, and he's looking for those Ghosts. And even just keeping the Ghosts to the right is big. Oh, Snipe's going to come on in, but there is an Infestor here ready to fungal. Oh, he's ready for it. He's waiting for the rest of the army to get in position, but can he make that jump? There's the unburrow. That is a massive fungal. There's nothing to lift up, and that's going to be all the Ghosts getting taken down. And that will almost certainly end this game, right?
I said fast. I thought this game was over 5 minutes ago, so I am not trying to predict any game's ending at this point. You're right, though. We talked about the Ghost count starting to climb on up there. It's been wholly recent, although you get a big tank shot, EMPs go down, maybe you knock some of the banelings off, but again, it's a game of economy. Kelazhur's doing a really nice job of holding on. Like a really nice job of holding on.
Yeah.
But his fourth base is really the only base that's mining. His third base is lifted. The fifth base on the north side is not really ever gonna mine. But he still holds on, actually. You know what? He needs more he needs his ghost count to get back up. But it's really hard to break a Terran on this map.
It is really hard, and Kelazhur is still on 4 bases. Like, yes, he's not mining from this third base, but he's got that strong planetary position. I feel like it's so close to being a break every time. Now we are going to see a couple of tanks going down. Should be enough banelings to just blow up this planetary. The bio was not in position, and finally, 17.5 minutes in. Yes, no. Kelazhur just doing everything he can to make me look like a damn fool. And you know what? Good for him.
Fast. You say no as a question. I say no as a statement. Kelazhur says it as a statement. No, I'm not leaving this. Not yet. Not while I have a single ghost in my cold dead. Actually, with my cold dead hands, I've left the game. Not while I have a single ghost in my warm living hands will I leave this game. Serral's not making it easy for him, and he's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You gotta stay into this. I'm gonna take the map. Like, I'm gonna have so much money that it doesn't matter how inefficiently I'm going to trade. I'm just going to make it so you cannot get that fifth base. He runs up the ramp again. Tanks are still getting good shots. The Ghosts continue to kite away, but there's just too much Zerg. Yeah, it's maybe not the best trade from an efficiency perspective. Steadfast, who the hell cares? It's 86 works to 28. It doesn't, like, the trades don't matter at this point.
And yeah, it's just going to be too much. It's 6.5 minutes after I said it would come, but ultimately Serral does take it down. Very impressive from Kelazhur to hold on as long as he did. Like, the reason that I was saying, you know, it's GG is because I've seen this dog and pony show so many times, and it really feels like when a player gets an opening, or when Serral gets an opening against any Terran like that, the game is just over. But Kelazhur did a great job of holding on and hanging around. Unfortunately, it was pretty much in a losing position. But yeah, you never know. You never know. It can sometimes turn. Serral's not the kind of player we think of that makes those big blunders, but it's always a possibility.
Yeah, you know, Steadfast, what's also really funny, we talk about how game 1 went. I love that somehow Oceanborn was Serral's map pick, and Alcyone is, I mean, obviously Alcyone's here, but we get like 2 really good Turtley Terran maps back to back in this. I don't know what I might have pick ban information. I'm not sure, but I love that somehow we get both of those maps through the veto process somehow. Like, you'd think that there would be like a Solaris in there or something that is maybe a bit, or obviously not a Radhu set, but something that's maybe a little bit better for Zerg players. But you know, who am I to judge? Serral, he's very confident on these late games. He doesn't mind getting there.
Yeah, no, he's extremely confident. He is one of the best late game players in the game's history. Like, I think most people would, at worst, put him as like top 5, even the most ardent Serral deniers of all. And I think many people would put him as the greatest late game player ever. Personally, I'm just enjoy it, and I don't think the rankings matter too much. Although I am, of course, paying attention to Mizenhauer's list, and I'm really curious if the way this one shakes out will influence what happens, will influence who actually ends up at number 1 on the list. That's just a personal little curiosity, because he didn't release the top 4 yet.
So I'm hearing that the winner of Serral Kelazhur, specifically, this is what you're saying. You're saying this series specifically influences whether Serral is number 1 on Mizenhauer's list. Got it.
Yes, clearly not the tournament at large, but just this specific series. That's clearly what I'm saying.
As we let our admin know that we are ready to go, we'll be moving into Alcyone very quickly. Now, this is a map that tends to go late. It's a map that is very hard to break the Terran. They get a lot of bases. It's kind of hard for the Zerg to get their own bases eventually. You get in that Liberator Ghost late game. But we did see Shin Go and Lingbane bust Cure on the main stage on this map. Even if this is a double Reaper opener, a double Rax Reaper opener coming out of Kelazhur, I don't think we see Serral do something like that. That doesn't really seem to be something that we would expect from him. I don't know. What I do know is that as soon as I find your camera, there we go. We're good to go. We're going to get into game number 2. Kelazhur down 1. In the upper right, in the blue. Unfortunately, he played a great late game, but fell down a little bit too hard for R8. It's Kelazhur.
And his opponent, just another day at the office, looking fantastic from start to finish. It is Basilisk Serral.
What do you think, right? I think I figured out why Serral's late game is so good. Okay? And it's not because he is the best, one of the best players, if not the best late game player of all time. It's because he is he's playing for a literal Basilisk Steadfast, and if you lock eyes with him, you get paralyzed. So I imagine it's really hard, especially on offline events. If you're sitting there and you're playing some TVZ and you're trying to micro around the map and deal with things, and you have to continuously avert your eyes from the screen while you're trying to micro, that seems like it gets harder the later the game goes.
Yeah, probably. I thought you were going to go in the direction of because he's the finisher, and at the end of the game, he's finishing the game, which is end game. But yeah, Basilisk makes sense. Definitely frees up the eyes. I've watched Harry Potter. I know how that works. We are going to be seeing a CC first, by the way. CC first out of Kelazhur, and no second gas just yet. Is this going to be a third command center? Right now, he's floating a lot of money. This feels like I guess you have money for the double orbital, but I still think it could be a fast third command center with no additional barracks coming down. Yeah, I think that's the direction we're heading.
So here's the problem, right? As we talk about this was an early pull out of Serral, which granted, early pull doesn't counter a CC first. You just lift it, it's fine. But there is no wall at the main base for the time being. I was gonna say if Kelazhur's a little slow on that, yeah, he's gonna build the wall. Okay. I was gonna say maybe Serral can get into the main base, but as it stands, it's early pool versus CC first. And while I don't doubt Serral in the slightest, I mean, we saw what he was able to do in game 1. We saw how clean his early game was. This is a bit of a build order disadvantage. Serral opens a little bit safer, a little bit more more. I don't want to say aggressive necessarily, because again, this is just kind of a standard anti-2 Rax type of play. But because Kelazhur's gotten CC first into 3CC, you kind of like Kelazhur's economic potential, I guess, is the best way to say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kelazhur's build is fantastic if he doesn't take any damage from what Serral's done, because there's no follow through from this for Serral. We are going to be seeing the Lings able to get 1 SCV. Kelazhur, oh, that's very nice for Serral. Being able to see the third command center with this is quite important. Oh, don't let him get the second SCV. Very nice pick from Serral. Very unfortunate for Kelazhur. And 2 SCVs going down. It's not crippling damage by any stretch, but it definitely undercuts the benefit of this setup. And Serral, he sees there's no starport. He throws down a Roach Warren. I wonder if we're going to see a very aggressive push to try and maybe just outright kill Kelazhur. There is a possibility, and with no starport yet, he does see it now, but that is really late to be getting Banshees out if Serral decides to go for a big attack.
Steadfast, the best way I can describe Serral's early game is like cinematic, right? You look at this, like game one,
yeah.
he's playing Marco Polo's like poking you from all angles, you can never hit him. Game two is like, it's like a cops and robbers movie. Like, you know, the kid goes up and distracts the police officer where like 2 more kids run by to try to go steal something. And that's exactly what happened right there. Like the single link goes forward, Kelazhur responds, 2 links go into the main base. It's cinematic, all right? It tells a story all of its own. But you're right, I am very worried about these roaches that are maybe going to run onto the other side of the map. There's a Banshee theoretically on the way right now. There's a tech lob on it. Now it's going to get started. These roaches are done. And more importantly, Serral's dodging the Hellions with it. He's all that Kelazhur sees are the queens on the right side, but I guess Serral's actually not going to move out with this, not all that much. He does have to deal Cyclones. They're still pretty good against roaches, even if it's not as good as they once were with the bonus damage to mechanical instead of armored. But they can start to wear away at this push. Roaches are good defensively against this opening, but not quite as good aggressively. So Serral had the opportunity, you're right, to make that push happen, but looks like he's not going to go for it.
No, it's yeah, and I was thinking maybe he'd, you know, go for a huge Roach Ravager Ling flood, but he only took the 1 gas. It didn't end up being anything more than basically just defensive for these roaches. But yeah, I mean, I'm still totally okay with this. Now, this is a big scout from Serral. So he spots a second factory. Obviously, he spots that tech lab glowing, but most importantly, he spots a second factory and he spots it researching something, which means he knows that it is going to be a Banshee battle mech opening here from Kelazhur, and that's an extremely good scout. I like the mind games from Kelazhur very much, but having this figured out as early as it is not ideal.
Yeah, I think this build can be effective. It's funny, actually, when I was talking to people leading into Katowice about mech and battle mech, I was pretty much told that from kind of knowledge going, it was kind of like Hero Marine. That's Hero Marine's thing, this Cyclone, Hellion, battle mech into mech. I mean, there really is not a lot of difference between the two now that Cyclones have been changed. It's all kind of just going into this one path. But it was like, yeah, Hero Marine kind of does it. It's kind of it. So, yes, we saw Kelazhur do this against Scarlet back at ESL Masters Americas, but that was on Radhuset. Anything that happens on Radhuset doesn't really count, you know? So to see him whip it out here against Serral is pretty cool. And the Banshees, they're going to be able to sit on top of this gas for a little bit. There's only 1 queen staying out of spore range. 5 drones go down. Importantly, shuts down the gas mining of Serral for just a little bit of time. And as the Zerg player, you want to be able, depending on how you choose to deal with this, you want to have as much gas mining as possible, right? You want to make sure that you either build that very tech-heavy army to handle the mech play, to get yourself up to max out on whatever it is you want. But Kelazhur, as much as we talk about battle mech, everything else, he's got double armory on the way. You know, he's really playing for this mid game, this late game, really, on Alcyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a really important thing. Serral is going to be going Swarm Host Nidus in an effort to punish this, and I think he has identified what I have, that these armories are so exposed. And even 1 Locust Wave being used to kill those, if you deny 1-1, that can be very effective. Great scan, spots the Swarm Hosts. That is a big deal. That is a really big deal. And he actually sees the Nidus Worm with the second scan. But this Nidus Worm is already in production. There's nothing to stop this. And I do think this 1-1 upgrade setup, if Serral just elects to go for that, if he just attacks it, it's gone.
Now,
but as I say that, we do see Kelazhur getting it on top of this spot. Okay. Wow, these Swarm Hosts are a little bit caught out. This is actually very nice for Kelazhur just to make sure that the Locust Wave doesn't go where it wants to. Serral is able to save everything but 1 queen, but, well, I spoke too soon. That's actually a really big deal, because losing that 1-1 with how far along it was would have really hurt, but now Kelazhur keeps it alive.
Yeah, and in general, you want to get damage with the first wave. Like, when you talk about Swarm Host play, it is something. I mean, look, Swarm Host is 3 supply per Swarm Host. Serral's, what's he got? He's got 10 Swarm Hosts, right? Eventually, they trade their goal is to be as efficient as possible, but they are not supply efficient whatsoever. You eventually, as we're gonna drop a single set of locusts, it's gonna be fine. And
hey,
look,
gets the Hellion.
he gets the Hellion. But again, you want to be as effective as early as possible, because like once the Terran gets to like 150, 160, 170 supply, the swarm hosts are not nearly as viable as that's not going to be a bioswamp. I'm like, 3 barracks on the way. No, this is just for ghosts. Because Kelazhur is very excited or very interested at this point in putting himself in a situation where he can play Ghost Mech, which is tremendously powerful. Although you do have to cut away from these locusts. The Cyclones don't fight them all that well, but he's gonna find maybe. Okay, so they're gonna target this down, and because the locusts are out, there's no point popping out of it. Kelazhur's handling this really nicely.
Yeah, I actually really like this position for Kelazhur. If he can survive up to a couple of those ghosts, we are going to see Ling Roach trying to jump on top of some of these Cyclones. We'll be able to get a few of those, and I don't even know what hit that sensor tower, but it did burn down. We will see a couple more of these Cyclones getting jumped on. No ghosts hitting the field just yet. It is mostly tank Cyclone at this point, but against what Serral has, that's going to be fine for now.
The one problem, Kelazhur's able to go, is finally these swarm hosts are going to try to get something as they get up into the natural. The one problem that we're looking at is that Kelazhur had like 5 Banshees, and he uses them to go in and snipe the gold base, absolutely, but he just lets them sit there, and all 5 Banshees went down to the Queens. He might have gotten 1 or 2 Queens, I'm not sure, but he's just sitting there, right? Those Banshees are really a key portion of this defense, of the offense, of enabling you to be as defensive as you are, because you need some way to get active on the map. So yeah, roaches are going to show up in the main base. They're going to get shut down. But the fact that Kelazhur doesn't have these 5 Banshees to deal with this roach pressure, to chase down any wayward swarm host, to have another way to react to the Nidus play, it removes one axis of one angle from how he would like to play. It makes it a lot more difficult. Now again, the locusts are going to move up into the natural, and this time, I mean, Kelazhur's just not in position. He's going to try to pull away. Meanwhile, on the right side, Serral, as Kelazhur moves up to 4 or 5 bases, as he really starts to try to develop his situation even more, that's going to be a kill, not a cancel on that command center. It's going to be a couple more units going down, abducts here on the tanks. It's funny, I think 30 seconds ago I said, wow, Kelazhur's handling this really nicely. And ever since then, he has been getting annihilated by this multi-pronging from Serral.
Yeah, Serral is just so good. He puts so much pressure on his opponents and forces them to make mistakes. And sometimes, you have a player who can keep up with them, like Clem. And this is the map where we saw it on. It was a different setup. Obviously, it was Battle Mech versus, this is Battle Mech, and Clem is playing Bio. But in this case, Kelazhur has kind of gotten broken open. Serral doing a really great job just being relentless with the multi-prong, and finally finds that opening. And now it just feels like it's a matter of keeping the pressure up here for Serral, as he's finished up Bane speed, so he can go into Hydraling Bane and play a much more mobile and very fast-paced one front attack.
Yeah, now with Blinding Cloud, I mean, it's a good EMP on the Vipers, but Blinding Cloud hits 2 of those tanks. Lings and Banes are going to try to get on top. Files should get a decent amount of these tanks as well. And Serral, he's not trying to end the game with any one of, if he wins, it's great, but he's not trying to end the game with any one of these pushes. It's all about, let me shut your tank count down. Let me shut your ghost count down. That's going to be really nice. Let me do economic damage to you over and over again. And yeah, if we look at resources lost, we're going to see that actually Serral's only about 100 resources behind until just now. I kind of expected that to be just a little bit worse, but in general, yeah, Serral's not going to trade as efficiently as the game goes later, but he's keeping the Terran on 4 bases. He's denying him that 5th base in the race to the 5th, and that means that, yeah, eventually Kelazhur can build this army that he wants, trade as efficiently as he wants. If you don't have money, it doesn't really matter.
No, it certainly does not, and we do see Kelazhur. He is going to be able to get a jump on a couple of these units. Ghosts, they will stay alive, and those blue flame Hellions, I don't think Serral was expecting those at the top of the ramp. They got a lot of Lings there. So Kelazhur finds his first little bit of success in this game in, I would say, quite a while, but he needs a lot more than that if he's going to be able to try and claw his way back. Serral doesn't actually have as much creep spread as you might expect, and that's because he has been putting so much focus on the attack, on the aggressive direction, trying to break his opponent. And Kelazhur, I mean, he's weathered the storm for now, but can he keep this 5th base up?
That is that's the question that will define this series, Steadfast. That is a very important one. But for now, the question also, I guess, can he keep the 4th base? Because, well, Locusts are going to get right on top of it, shredding this down, and the Banelings are going to say, yeah, that's fine. You've done a lot of the work. Let me finish this off. A bunch of SCVs fall. The base is dead, and now the question is, can he keep the 4th base? Because that is what the north side base has become. It's finally Serral's able to break this down. Kelazhur thinks about chasing, but the turnaround is so scary. Vipers can abduct, and you can run face first into a bunch of Banes and lose the rest of your army. So Serral gets safely back to creep. He breaks the base down, and Nidus pops somewhere, and oh, that's very nice. Though a couple of Vipers go down. Serral doesn't pull them back just enough in time. Scan does a really nice job there, and again, we got to give credit to Kelazhur. Is he in the lead in this game? No, he's not. But he's gonna lose a couple tanks right now. But this is the 2nd game in this series where it's felt like Serral's been kind of in the lead, has had this tempo advantage over and over and over again. And Kelazhur's doing a really nice job of at least staying in it, of maintaining a somewhat playable position in this game. That that's a way to bust a base down.
That is so cool. That is actually so cool. Oh, I'd love to see him lead in with like one swarm host to soak a shot. Oh, oh my god. Nah. He's doing it with a Baneling instead. Wait. Oh, he's just gonna wait for the Locust wave. Okay. Yeah. I was so excited. I was so excited with the like swarm host body block. Still, he should be able to get this. Banelings will take down all the SCVs. The planetary goes down with the help of those Locusts. And Serral once again finds a big amount of damage. Now he's actually trading cost efficiently for the moment in the game. He's going to find 3 more tanks on the right side. There is a deep tank line behind this, so he's not going to get anything more. But he is just absolutely keeping the pressure dialed to 11 out of 5. Like, just really, really hammering on Kelazhur.
Steadfast, this is Zerg versus Terran against meching Terran. You're not supposed to be able to play cost effective against the Terran play. Like, that's just not against mech. That's just not how it works.
Against ghost mech.
Like, what is happening? Serral's very good at what's happening. He's going to show up on the left side as well. More tanks are going to go down. And man, if you're Kelazhur, this has just got to feel hopeless. It's like you're doing everything you're supposed to. You're getting up to 4 or 5 bases. You're lasting above 150 supply against a swarm host player. Like, this is what you want. And instead, it feels like it's been 17 minutes of slow and painful death of Serral still trading better than the Terran player. Like,
it's just so amazing that Serral is able to do this. He is such a, I mean, we're so complimentary of Serral for so many reasons, but this is another one of those reasons. Is he is just indomitable. You know, he's unstoppable sometimes. It feels like you're playing against an AI that is also Archoning with other AIs.
I think it's important to point, like, so I look back in the annals of one-sided games and group stages, right? I think of like Beyond and a laser, where Beyond dropped 16 Reapers on a laser to kill him, which was, you know, that was pretty fun. And that was a case of Beyond playing really well and a laser, you know, not playing up to his potential in that series. This is a game where Kelazhur has been playing very well. He's been holding on really nicely. He's been doing what he has to do to beat most Zergs. The problem is, Serral is not most Zergs. Like, no one, I don't think anyone else trades cost effectively into this composition the way that Serral has. He's just blinding clouds on top of everything. This is gonna, even if he doesn't leave this game, this is gonna end it. The tanks aren't sieged. The Broodlords are on top of everything. Kelazhur's dead in 17 minutes. He plays very well. The problem is, he's playing Serral.